This place is for investors, not roadside laborers hunting for free air conditioning. Remove him before his suffering enters our camera.
Open that filthy bag. Kemi Adebayo's voice cracked across the marble lobby. 47 guests turned. Seyi Balogun stood beneath the white lights in a mud-stained shirt, one trouser knee torn, red dust clinging to his safety boots. Two security men pulled his old leather case open. Papers scattered across the floor. One page stopped beside Kemi's crimson heel. Urgent Constructural Safety Norta, 147 OSUP units. She did not read it. She pushed the report back with her shoe and laughed. This place is for investors, not roadside laborers hunting for free air conditioning. Remove him before his suffering enters our camera. Somebody laughed with her. Seyi checked the clock. 11:06 a.m. Madam, insult my clothes if you must, but register that warning. 147 families are sleeping behind it. Kemi tore his visitor slip in half. That evening, she switched on the television, and the same man appeared beneath one terrifying caption. Do not leave this story halfway. Comment your city, country, and local time below, then subscribe now. Because what happened after Kemi saw his name on that screen would expose every lie she had told. The trouble had started the previous night, under rain that had been falling over Lagos since 7:13 in the evening. At a Beni court in Oniru, the gutters had given up first. Brown water climbed over the curb, carried plastic sachets into the parking ramp, and spread across the basement in a thin, oily sheet. By 10 o'clock, 2 pumps were working. One was making noise without moving much water. The other had stopped completely. Seyi Balogun arrived at 10:38 p.m. in a silver Toyota Corolla whose left headlamp looked newer than the right one. The estate manager had called him after 3 residents complained that their doors were suddenly dragging against the floor. One woman said her bedroom door had closed properly on Monday and refused to close by Wednesday evening. That was not proof of a failing building, but it was enough to make Seyi come. He parked outside the basement because he did not trust the slope. Then he took a yellow raincoat from his boot, a laser measure, a crack gauge, 2 torches, and the old leather case his wife had once begged him to throw away. The handle had been repaired with black electrical tape. Engineer, thank God you came, the estate manager said. People are squeezing their faces as if the building will fall tonight. What have you told them? That it is only rainwater. Do you know that? The manager looked at the water around his shoes. I am managing the situation, sir. Seyi did not answer. In his experience, I am managing could mean anything from I have called the right person to I am standing beside a disaster and hoping it respects office hours. He began at the western retaining wall. The wall was painted cream. Somebody had recently painted over 3 patches with a shade slightly whiter than the rest, the kind of difference most eyes would miss and any decent site inspector would notice before greeting anybody. Seyi ran his fingers over the first patch. The paint came away as a wet paste. Under it sat a diagonal crack, narrow at the top and wide enough near the floor to catch the edge of his crack gauge. 2.6 millimeters. He measured again. 2.7. He photographed it with a scale card beside it, then checked the image timestamp. 10:54 p.m. Wednesday, May 21, 2025. Was this repaired? He asked. The estate manager shifted his weight. Maintenance touched its smalls. When? Some weeks ago. How many weeks? Maybe 3. Who ordered it? Head office. Seyi wrote that down. At the second patch, water was not merely staining the wall. It was pushing through a horizontal joint in small, cloudy beads. He placed a clear plastic cup beneath it. Within 11 minutes, the cup held 34 milliliters of water and a gray sediment that settled like fine ash. At the third patch, he found a hollow sound when he tapped the concrete with the handle of his screwdriver. Tock, tock. Then a flatter sound. Tuck. The estate manager heard it too. Engineer, hope no problem? There is a problem. I do not yet know its full size. Seyi walked to the drainage channel. 2 inspection grates were blocked by hardened mortar and broken pieces of paving stone. That was not an act of God. Somebody had allowed construction waste to set inside a drainage path. He crouched and photographed it, the torn knee of his brown work trousers soaked through. At 11:31 p.m., he set a laser against an old survey marker fixed into a column. The western wall had moved approximately 11 millimeters from the position recorded in a 2023 maintenance drawing, supplied by the estate manager. 11 millimeters did not make a television headline. It made a question. Had the wall moved slowly over 2 years, or quickly over a few days? Was the marker reliable? Had the old drawing been taken correctly? What was happening behind the wall? How much water pressure had built up? What had been changed during landscaping works? Seyi asked for earlier monitoring records. There is no monitoring record, the estate manager said. Then ask head office for the as-built drawings and drainage modification file. I can ask tomorrow. Ask now. The manager gave a nervous laugh. Seyi did not join him. At 12:09 a.m., a resident came down wearing a wrapper over a football jersey. She held a bunch of keys and 1 slipper in her hand. Engineer, they said you are checking the building. I am checking part of it, ma. My door is doing somehow. Which floor? 3rd floor, western side. He followed her upstairs. Her bedroom door caught hard against the tile near the latch. Seyi checked the frame. There was a fresh hairline separation at one top corner. In the corridor, a second door showed a similar problem. Again, not proof. But patterns were forming. He returned to the basement and called the emergency number listed for Abeni Urban Estates. It rang 6 times, played music for 41 seconds, and disconnected. He called again. The same thing. At 12:47 a.m., he sent an email marked urgent to the estate management address, the company compliance unit, and the building control contact listed on the project documents. He attached 13 photographs and a 2-page preliminary note. The email said, the western parking area should be closed immediately. Vehicle loading removed. Drainage cleared under controlled supervision and qualified structural assessment commenced at first light. It did not say the building would collapse. It did not say residents should panic. It said delay was not acceptable. At 1:22 a.m., a woman from compliance called him. Her voice was low, as though she was speaking from a corridor. Engineer Balogun? Yes. My name is not important for now. I saw your email. Then acknowledge it formally. I cannot from this line. Why? A door closed at her end. Please bring a printed copy to head office before the investor briefing tomorrow. Ask for compliance desk 2. Your name will be placed on the visitor schedule. Who is responsible for the drainage alteration? I cannot discuss that. Madam, 147 flats are occupied. I know. The line went quiet. Then she said, please come before 11:30. Seyi printed the preliminary report at a business center near his home at 7:16 the next morning. The young man operating the printer complained that the rain had entered his extension box. Seyi waited while he dried it with a standing fan and used the time to call the estate manager. The western parking area had not been closed. Head office said we should not alarm residents, the manager told him. Did they send that instruction in writing? No, sir. Close the area. They will sack me. And if something happens, the man said nothing. Seyi reached Abeni Urban Estates in Victoria Island at 10:39 a.m. By then, his shirt had dried in patches. Cement dust marked one sleeve. His work trousers still carried a dark stain at the knee, and his boots had collected red mud from the flooded edge of the parking ramp. He had gone home only long enough to bathe, change his shirt, and check on his wife, who was visiting her sister in Ibadan. The trousers were the only dry pair of sight trousers he had left. He did not imagine that clothing would become evidence. The headquarters of Abeni Urban Estates rose behind a glass frontage that reflected the grey sky without showing the rain stains on its own windows. Inside, the lobby smelled of polished stone, citrus air freshener, and money spent to make ordinary people lower their voices. A 12-foot display showed a computer image of Abeni Azure, the company's next luxury development. Blue water curled around impossible white towers. On the screen, nobody owned a generator. Nobody argued with a leaking ceiling. Nobody's door dragged across the floor. Bizi Coker sat at the reception desk in a cream blouse and navy skirt. Her company badge still had a clear plastic film over one corner because she had been employed for only 4 months and did not want anything to scratch it. "Good morning, sir," she said. "Good morning. I am here for Compliance Desk 2. Seyi Balogun." BC checked the printed schedule beneath her keyboard. His name was there, handwritten beside 10:45. She reached for the visitor book. Before her pen touched the page, a woman's voice came from behind. "BC, what is this?" Kemi Adebayo was wearing crimson from shoulder to ankle. The dress was cut sharply at the waist. Gold hoops caught the lobby lights when she turned her head. Her heels were the same red as her dress, the kind of match that announced planning. Behind her, event assistants were arranging glasses for the investor briefing. BC stood. "Ma, he has an appointment with Compliance Desk 2. Kemi looked at Seyi's boots first, then his trousers, then the old leather case. She did not look at his face until she had already decided who he was. "Which contractor sent you?" she asked. "No contractor sent me." "Then why are you entering from the main lobby?" "I was directed here." "Directed by who?" "A member of your compliance team." "Name?" She did not give it. Kemi's mouth moved by half an inch. Not a smile, a judgment. "And you expect me to believe that a compliance officer invited you without giving her name?" Seyi placed the sealed report on the desk. "You can call Desk 2 and confirm." BC lifted the phone. Kemi put one finger on the receiver and pressed it back down. "BC, our investors are arriving." "Yes, ma. Use your eyes." "Does this look like an investor appointment?" Seyi glanced at the schedule. "My name is on your list." Kemi folded her arms. "Poor people are becoming very confident in Lagos. You see glass doors and air conditioning, and suddenly you remember one imaginary appointment." The nearest event assistant looked away. Bissie's fingers stayed on the visitor book. "Ma, the name is here," she said quietly. Kemi pulled the schedule towards herself. Her eyes traveled down the page and stopped. For 1 second she saw it. Seyi Balogun, 10:45, Compliance Desk 2. Then she placed her palm over the line. "This is not a confirmed executive meeting." "It does not need to be executive," Seyi said. "It concerns an occupied property." "Which property?" "Abeni Court." Something changed in Kemi's eyes. Small, fast, Seyi noticed. Before he could continue, 2 men in dark suits entered the lobby with an assistant carrying a camera. Kemi straightened. Her voice became louder, smoother. "Sir, you cannot disturb a private corporate event." "I am not here for the event." "Then use the service entrance like other site workers." "I am not your site worker. Your clothes are arguing with you." One of the arriving guests laughed through his nose. Kemi heard it and went further. "This is a luxury property company. not a roadside labor junction. Did you come because somebody told you the air conditioning is free? Seyi looked past her at the wall clock. 10:53. Call compliance, he said. You do not give instructions here. Then receive the report and stamp my copy. Kemi reached for the envelope but did not take it. She read the typed line through the transparent document pouch. Urgent, constructural safety nota. Her thumb paused over the word urgent. What exactly are you trying to do? She asked. Notify the company. Of what? Possible movement at the western retaining wall, blocked drainage, water ingress, and related signs requiring immediate assessment. The camera assistant turned his lens slightly. Kemi saw it. Her face changed again. Now the problem was not Seyi's clothing. It was what his words could do inside a lobby full of investors. Lower your voice, she said. I am speaking normally. You are creating panic. No, I am delivering a report. Kemi looked at Musa Bello, the security supervisor standing near the access gate. Musa. He came over. Ma? Check this man's bag. Seyi looked at her. On what basis? A VIP access card is missing from the registration table. Bissie's head came up. Ma, the cards were counted before. Did I ask you? Bissie closed her mouth. Kemi pointed to the floor beside Seyi. A gold-edged access card lay near one of the table legs. It had slipped from a tray when an assistant moved the glasses. Nobody had seen it fall. Kemi had seen it now, and she had found her excuse. You were standing here, she said. Open the bag. I did not touch your card. Open that filthy bag. The lobby turned. 47 guests, staff and vendors were now within sight of the reception area. Some stared openly. Others did the more respectable thing and pretended to check their phones while keeping the camera pointed in the right direction. Musa stepped closer. Oga, please cooperate. Seyi's jaw moved once. Then he placed the old leather case on the marble floor. Open it, Kemi ordered. Musa unfastened the straps. The damaged latch caught. When he pulled harder, the lid opened too fast, and the documents inside slid out across the polished floor. Photographs, measurement sheets, a drainage plan, the preliminary safety notice. One page stopped beside Kemi's crimson heel. Argent constructural safety nota on 47 Oskyaip units. She looked down. She could have bent and read it. She could have called compliance. She could have asked one sensible question. Instead, she moved the page with the tip of her shoe. The smell of wet cement entered before you did, she said. This building is hosting investors, not collecting tired laborers from the roadside. Remove him before his suffering enters our camera. A few people laughed. Not everybody, but enough. Seyi crouched and gathered the pages one by one. He did not hurry. That made Kemi angrier than begging would have done. Bissie came around the desk to help him. Leave it, Kemi said. Bissie froze. Seyi picked up the last photograph. It showed cloudy water passing through the wall joint at 11:07 the previous night. He placed it back in the case. Then he looked at the clock. 11:06 a.m. Madam, he said, insult my clothes if you must, but register that warning. 147 families are sleeping behind it. Kemi reached across the desk, took the visitor slip Bissie had begun to complete, and tore it into 2 pieces. There is no warning, she said. There is only a dirty man disturbing my event. She dropped the pieces into a waste bin. What she did not know was that the visitor book used carbon paper. Under the white slip sat a pink copy. Bissie had already written the number, 417. Musa touched Seyi's arm. Oga, let us go. Seyi pulled his arm free, not violently. I can walk. Kemi pointed towards a side corridor. Use the service exit. I will not have him passing through the main doors again. As Seyi lifted his case, one of the investors stepped aside to avoid his wet boot print. Another raised his phone higher. The glass doors at the end of the lobby reflected Kemi in red and Seyi in brown, one standing beneath a chandelier, the other being led towards a door used by caterers and cleaners. At the corridor entrance, Seyi stopped beside Bisi. "Please record the time," he said. Bisi looked at Kemi, then at him. "I will, sir, and keep your copy." Kemi heard that. "What copy?" Bisi's hand moved over the visitor book. "Nothing, Ma." Seyi continued down the corridor. Behind him, Kemi told a cleaner to wipe the chair he had sat on. The cleaner stared at the clean cream fabric, then wiped it anyway. Outside, the rain had stopped. Heat rose from the pavement in soft waves. Seyi stood beside the service gate and opened his case again. Several pages were bent. One had a red mark from Kemi's shoe. He flattened against the bonnet of his Corolla. Then he photographed the document exactly as it was. At 11:18 a.m. He sent the complete report electronically to 4 separate addresses: the company compliance unit, the Lagos Building Control Office, the project insurer, and the professional engineering panel on which he served. The email subject read, "Second Norta, delivery refused at head office, Abenicourt, Western Wall." He attached the photographs, measurements, and the preliminary recommendation. Then he called the estate manager. "Close the western parking area now. Engineer, head office has not approved it. Do you need approval to stop people parking beneath a wall under investigation?" They said, "There is an investor matter. There is also gravity." The manager breathed into the phone. Seyi looked through the windscreen at his own reflection. Cement dust sat in the lines beside his eyes. "Put barriers around the western side," he said. "Do not let anybody scrape, paint, or patch those cracks. And send a written notice to residents that inspection is ongoing. No conclusions, no rumors. What if they sack me?" Seyi closed his eyes for 2 seconds. "My brother was 24 when a floor came down on him because 6 men were waiting for somebody senior to approve common sense. Close the area." The line stayed quiet. Then the estate manager said, "I will find barriers." Seyi ended the call. In the lobby above him, glasses clinked as Kemi welcomed investors to a presentation titled "Building Trust Beyond Concrete." At 7:21 that evening, Kemi was sitting inside the private dining room of Oko Restaurant with 2 representatives from Meridian Capital and 1 man from her own finance department, who had spent the first 20 minutes telling everybody how little he ate at night. Kemi had changed nothing about her clothes except her shoes. The crimson dress remained. She had replaced the high heels with lower red pumps because the back of her ankle had begun to blister. On the wall, a television played with the sound low. Kemi was explaining the Abeni Azure launch numbers when the finance man lifted one finger. "Please increase that. They are discussing building safety." The waiter reached for the remote. Kemi continued speaking. "As I was saying, our reservation list has already exceeded the first quarter projection by..." The television sound rose. A presenter sat behind a curved desk. Beside her, a man in a navy suit adjusted a stack of papers. His shirt was white. His tie was dark green. Without the mud, the torn trouser knee, and the old leather case, he looked different enough to make Kemi stare twice. Then the lower third caption appeared. "Engineer Seyi Balogun lad, technical advisor, independent building safety review panel." Kemi stopped speaking. The waiter was still holding the remote. On the screen, Seyi did not smile. "The first thing residents must understand," he said, "is that not every crack means a building is about to fail. People should not panic because of one line in plaster. But certain patterns require prompt professional attention." The presenter leaned forward. "What patterns?" "A crack that is widening quickly. Several doors or windows beginning to jam at the same time. Water passing through structural concrete. Unusual movement after heavy rain. A retaining wall changing alignment. One sign may have an innocent explanation. Several, together, require investigation. The Meridian representative nearest Kemi put down his fork. The presenter asked, "And if management says it is only cosmetic?" Management is not a structural diagnosis. The finance man gave a small laugh. Kemi did not. A line of water had formed beneath her glass and reached the cuff of her sleeve. She watched it darken the red fabric without moving her hand. Engineer Balogun, the presenter continued. There have been claims that some property companies discourage residents from reporting defects because they fear damage to their brand. What should residents do? Document what they observe. Note dates and locations. Keep original photographs. Report through the proper channels. Do not alter evidence. Do not break into restricted areas. And do not spread conclusions you are not qualified to make. His voice remained level. That was worse. If he had shouted, Kemi could have called him bitter. If he had mentioned the lobby, she could have said he wanted attention. But he spoke as if she did not exist. The television presenter turned to another camera. Engineer Balogun is part of the panel reviewing several high-density properties across Lagos following recent rainfall. The panel says it will release verified findings after site inspections are completed. Several properties. No name, no accusation. Still, Kemi knew. Her phone began to vibrate against the table. Dare Okoro, she let it ring once, twice. The finance man nodded towards the screen. This man knows what he is saying. Kemi picked up the phone. "Excuse me." She stepped into the corridor. The call connected before she reached washroom. "Where are you?" Dare asked. "At dinner with Meridian." "Leave. Why?" "Because the laborer you threw out this morning is on national television." He did not identify himself. "Did you ask?" Kemi said nothing. Dare's voice dropped. "Come to the office now." She returned to the private room and told the investors that an internal matter required her attention. One Meridian representative was still watching Seyi. "Is he reviewing any of your properties?" he asked. Kemi picked up her handbag. "Our compliance procedures are fully aligned with regulatory standards." It was not an answer. Everybody at the table knew it. By 8:04 p.m., Kemi was back inside Abeni Urban Estates. The event banners had been removed. The lobby looked larger without the guests, and smaller without their approval. The chair she had ordered cleaned stood where it had been that morning. Dare's office occupied the 9th floor. He was waiting behind a desk made from one slab of dark wood, his jacket hanging on the back of a chair. Dare Okoro was 47 and carried his weight in a way expensive tailoring could disguise from the front, but not from the side. On his screen was a paused image of Seyi on television. Dare did not ask Kemi to sit. "Tell me exactly what happened." Kemi set her handbag down. "He came without a proper contact person." "That is not what I asked." "He said he had an appointment with compliance." "Did he?" His name was on a handwritten schedule. Dare looked at her for a long second. What did he bring? A report. What report? Something about Abeni Court. Water ingress, a retaining wall. Did you open it? No. Did you stamp it? No. Did anybody stamp it? No. Dare's shoulders loosened by a fraction. Did he leave a copy? I do not think so. You do not think so. The papers fell. Security checked his bag. He gathered everything. Camera footage. The lobby cameras would have recorded it. Witnesses? There were guests, staff witnesses, Kemi, Bisi, Musa, 2 event assistants. The cleaner. Did Bisi enter him in the visitor system? She started a slip. Started? I tore it. Dare pressed his lips together. He walked to the window and looked down at the lights on the road. For a moment, Kemi thought he was angry about the humiliation. He was not. Was there a carbon copy? He asked. Kemi felt the back of her neck tighten. I do not know. You run brand experience in a building where the reception book has used carbon paper for 7 years, and you do not know. I was handling 47 guests and an uninvited man covered in mud. Dare turned. Stop talking about his clothes. His clothes are no longer useful. Kemi looked at the frozen television image behind him. Dare returned to the desk and opened a spreadsheet. A row highlighted in yellow carried the figure 18,630,000,000. Meridian's refinancing committee meets on Monday, he said. If a Benny court enters a formal emergency review before then, the lender can suspend the entire facility. So there is a serious problem. There is a drainage issue. He said the wall had moved. He said many things. You just told me his clothes are no longer useful. Which one is it? Is he qualified or is he not? Dare's eyes settled on her. Do you want an honest answer or do you want to keep your job? The air conditioner hummed above them. Kemi reached for the chair but did not sit. Dare continued. A Benny court houses 147 owners and tenants. The company employs 312 people directly. Our contractors employ more. If a technical dispute is presented carelessly, banks freeze funds. Project staff, just salaries stop. And every person involved pretends they did not know us. You are saying the report is wrong. I am saying an assessment is not a conclusion. That is not the same thing. No, it is the useful thing. Dare came around the desk. Listen to me. A consulting engineer came to the building, behaved aggressively, refused normal security screening, and attempted to enter a restricted investor event. No report was officially received. That is what happened. Kemi stared at him. He was not aggressive. He raised his voice. He did not. Then perhaps you heard him badly. Dare moved closer. You embarrassed the wrong man this morning. I am giving you a way to make it a security incident. Instead of a professional obstruction matter, do not become moral at 9 o'clock because television has shown you a suit. That line entered cleanly. Kemi looked at the screen again. Seyi's face remained paused beneath the caption naming his role. What do you need me to do? She asked. Dare reached for the office phone. First, remove his name from the visitor log. At 9:42 p.m. Kemi logged into the reception management portal from Dare's office. She found the handwritten schedule had been scanned that afternoon as part of the daily file. Seyi Balogun, 10:45. Compliance desk 2. She hovered over the entry. Delete visitor record? The system required a reason. Kemi typed, unauthorized intruder. Recurated in error. Then she pressed confirm. Dare watched from behind her. Now send an instruction to facilities to preserve all relevant footage, he said. Kemi turned. Preserve? Yes. Use the proper language. She understood. A preservation instruction would make the company look compliant. Dare would handle what happened after. Kemi opened her email. Her fingers moved too fast. She wrote, remove the dirty intruder from today's records. We cannot let this become part of the investor narrative. Dare leaned over her shoulder. You wrote dirty? That is how staff will identify him. Delete it. Kemi highlighted the sentence. Then an incoming call covered the lower part of her screen. She rejected the call and continued editing. But the email application had autosaved a draft version to the server. She changed the message to, please correct the unauthorized visitor entry, created at 10:47 a.m., and restrict associated footage, pending internal review. She sent it. The autosaved line remained elsewhere. Neither of them knew. At 10:17 p.m., Musa was called upstairs. He entered Dare's office with his cap in both hands. Ogre Dare, Madam Kemi. Dare offered him the chair Kemi had not used. Musa, there was an incident this morning. Yes, sir. We need an accurate security statement. Musa nodded. Kemi placed a printed page before him. It said Seyi had arrived without an appointment, refused to identify himself, became verbally aggressive, attempted to enter a restricted area, and appeared possibly intoxicated. Musa read it twice. Madam, intoxicated? He was not behaving normally, Kemi said. He was behaving calm. Calm men do not disturb investor events. He did not smell of alcohol. Dare folded his hands. Musa, your daughter is in her 3rd year at the university, Abai? Musa looked at him. Yes, sir. Engineering? Pharmacy. Good course. Fees are not small. Musa's thumb rubbed the edge of his cap. Dare pushed the paper closer. This is not a lie. It is an incident description from management. Sign that you received and acted on the instruction. What of the missing card? Musa asked. Kemi answered. It was recovered after he left. Under the table, yes, so he did not take it. No one says he took it. The paper said suspected theft of access credential. Musa read that line again. Dare's voice stayed soft. Nobody is asking you to carry anybody on your head. Sign what happened and go home. Musa held the pen. His daughter's fees for the semester were P684,000. The deadline was in 9 days. He had 391,500 saved. He signed. But when he returned to the security room, he did not delete the radio recording from the morning shift. The body radio system copied each transmission to a removable memory card before syncing to the main server. Musa removed the card, wrote May 22, Shift A on a piece of masking tape, and placed it inside the lining of his old lunch bag. He did not know whether he was protecting the truth or merely postponing his own cowardice. Busy's turn came the next morning. She arrived at 7:34 a.m. and found her login disabled. The receptionist on night duty avoided her eyes. Kemi called her into a small meeting room with no windows. Dare was not there. Human Resources had sent a representative named Mr. Johnson, a man who kept aligning the corners of the documents in front of him. Kemi wore cream that morning. Busy noticed because the red dress had been in her dreams. Sit, Kemi said. Busy sat. Mr. Johnson read from a letter. Following a review of yesterday's security breach, your contract is terminated with immediate effect for failure to follow visitor access procedures and unauthorized disclosure of internal scheduling information. Busy blinked. Which information did I disclose? You confirmed an unverified appointment in front of external guests, Kemi said. His name was on the schedule. The schedule entry was created in error. By who? That is not your concern. It became my concern when you put it inside my termination letter. Mr. Johnson stopped aligning the papers. Kemi leaned back. Busy, do not make this harder than it is. My salary for April is still not complete. It will be processed according to policy. You owe me 187,500 naira. You are discussing salary after allowing a mud-covered stranger to disrupt a refinancing event? He was invited. He was an intruder. He was on television last night. There it was. Kemi's face did not move, but her fingers closed around her pen. Bisi continued. He is an engineer. He brought a safety report. You saw it. You are not qualified to interpret what you saw. I can read 147 occupied units. Kemi placed both palms on the table. Be careful. Bisi looked at Mr. Johnson. Is that part of the termination process? Mr. Johnson looked down. Kemi's voice became quiet. Return your badge. Return all company documents. You are not to contact Engineer Balogun, any resident of Abeni Court, or any media organization. If you retained or copied internal material, the company may pursue criminal action. Bisi's tongue pressed against the back of her teeth. Inside her handbag, beneath a packet of biscuits, sat the pink carbon copy from visitor slip 407. She had removed it from the book after Kemi left the lobby the previous day. Before leaving work, she had scanned it through the reception machine and sent it to her personal email, because she knew paper could disappear. She had also photographed the schedule. BC stood and unclipped her badge. The pin caught the fabric of her blouse. She pulled too hard and tore 2 threads. She placed the badge on the table. "Who will protect the people in that building?" she asked. Kemi did not answer. "Security will escort you out," Mr. Johnson said. BC gave a dry laugh. "Of course." Musa was the one told to escort her. They walked through the lobby in silence. When they reached the main doors, he said, "My sister, I am sorry." "For what?" Musa looked towards the camera above the entrance. "For many things." Bissy stepped outside. Her transport fare home was 1,200. She had the 850 in her account and half a loaf of bread in her room. At the bus stop, her phone showed 2 new emails. The first was the termination notice. The second had been sent automatically from the reception scanner at 3:14 p.m. the previous day. Visitor slip 417. PDF. Bissy opened it. Seyi's name stared back at her in her own handwriting. At Abeni Court, meanwhile, the estate manager had used red plastic tape and 6 paint buckets to block the western parking area. Residents complained that the nearest alternative parking was outside the gate. At 9:08 a.m., an instruction came from head office: remove barriers. No formal evacuation or closure has been decided. The estate manager read it 3 times. Then he took a screenshot. He did not remove the barriers. At 9:26, Seyi received an acknowledgement from the Lagos Building Control Office. His report had been logged at 11:18 a.m. the previous day. The acknowledgement carried a reference number, LBC ONR 05258831. At 9:41, the project insurer acknowledged receipt too. At 10:03, DARE issued an internal statement saying the company had received no credible structural warning before an unauthorized individual disrupted its investor event. By noon, the lie had letterhead. BC found Seyi's number on the engineering panel website at 4:18 that afternoon. She stared at it for 7 minutes before calling. When he answered, the noise around him sounded like traffic and metal hitting concrete. "Engineer Balogun?" "Yes." "My name is BC. From Abeni reception." The background noise stopped. "I remember you. They sacked me." Seyi said nothing for a moment. BC had expected surprise, anger. Maybe one of those heavy statements people make when somebody else has lost a salary. Instead, he asked, "Are you somewhere safe?" "I am at home." "Did anybody follow you?" "No." "Did they take your phone?" "No, sir." "Good. Do not send me documents by WhatsApp. Do not post anything online. Keep the original files where they are." BC frowned at the wall of her room. "You have not even asked what I have. If it matters, we should not damage it before I see it." That was the first useful thing anybody had said to her all day. They agreed to meet the next morning at Mama T's food corner near Oberlende. The place had plastic chairs, a zinc awning, and a television that showed football whether football was playing or not. Seyi chose it because it was public, noisy and too ordinary for anybody to pretend a secret conspiracy was taking place there. He arrived at 8:09 a.m. in a pale blue shirt. The old leather case sat beside his chair. Bissy came 12 minutes later, clutching a brown paper envelope so tightly that one corner had folded into a sharp triangle. "You have eaten?" Seyi asked. "I am fine." That was not the question. She looked away. He ordered yam and egg sauce for both of them. While they waited, BC brought out the pink visitor slip. Seyi did not touch it. "Where has this been since yesterday?" "In my bag, then my room." "Who has handled it?" "Only me." "Did you write anything else on it after the incident?" "No." "Did you photograph it?" I scanned it at work. Good. Keep the original flat. Do not laminate it. Do not write on the back. Bissy placed it on the table. The pink paper carried a faint reverse impression from the sheet above. Her handwriting was clear enough. Visitor no. 417 Seyi Balogun 47A. M. Compliance Desk Tuargent. Sefati Ninota, Court. At the bottom, the first stroke of Seyi's intended signature stopped where Kemi had taken the white sheet. Bisi showed him the photograph of the schedule, the termination email, and the scanned copy. Can this expose them? She asked. It can establish part of a timeline. Only part? Evidence is not magic, my sister. One paper does not explain every event. It shows that your company recorded my visit before the incident. That matters. They have deleted your name. Then the deletion log matters too. What if they delete that? Most systems keep records people do not see on the screen. Bisi leaned back. So what do I do now? First, write down everything you remember. Exact words where you can. Do not improve the story. If you are unsure, write that you are unsure. I remember everything. No. You remember what your mind has kept after a bad day. Those are not always the same thing. The food arrived. Bisi looked at it but did not lift her fork. Seyi continued. Keep original emails. Export them with headers if possible. Do not crop screenshots. Do not enter the company system again, even if somebody gives you a password. Do not steal files. Do not record people where recording is prohibited. We use lawful channels, or we become the easiest people to discredit. Sir, they lied. I know. They removed me because I helped you. I know. And you are talking like a manual. Seyi looked at her. Cece's lower lip had gone pale where she was biting it. He moved the plate closer to her. My brother died in a building collapse 18 years ago, he said. For 1 week, every person involved spoke from anger. By the second week, the contractor's lawyers had turned that anger into confusion. Wrong dates. Exaggerated claims. Photographs with no source. People saying things they did not actually witness. Truth can be strong and still be badly handled. Bisi released her lip. How old was he? 24. And you? 24. Twins? Seyi nodded. He took an old steel ruler from the side pocket of his case. One end was bent. The markings between 13 and 16 centimeters had been scratched away. They found this in his pocket, he said. Bisi looked at it. Seyi returned it to the case before the object could become a speech. Eat, he said. She did. Before they separated, he gave her the number of a labor rights lawyer attached to a professional association. He also wrote down the building control reference number, LBC ONR 05258831, so she could include it in any statement. Bisi folded the paper into 4. Will you tell the media what Kemi did? No. Her eyebrows rose. Why? Because a woman insulting my trousers is not the emergency. She called you a roadside laborer. My father was a roadside mechanic. That insult has no teeth in my mouth. But she should answer for it. She will answer for whatever can be proved. Right now, people are living beside a wall that has moved. I will not use them as background for my personal revenge. Bisi stared at him. You are not angry? Seyi tore a piece of yam with his fork. I did not say that. At 11:30 a.m. Seyi joined a formal inspection team at Court. Ronka Williams, the panel chair, arrived in a grey trouser suit with a hard hat tucked under one arm. She was 44, precise and famously unimpressed by men who introduced themselves with all their titles before saying good morning. Dare came from head office with 2 lawyers and a consultant named Dr. Femi George, whose preliminary letter had already described the cracks as non-structural. Ronka stood at the entrance to the basement. No cameras beyond the marked line, she said. No one touches a surface before it is documented. All sampling will be witnessed. If anybody has repaired, painted, or removed material since engineer Balogun's first photographs, disclose it now. Nobody spoke. Seyi looked at the western wall. A fresh strip of cream paint ran across the first crack. He turned to the estate manager. When was that done? The man's eyes moved towards Dare. Yesterday evening. By whose instruction? Ronke asked. Dare stepped forward. Routine maintenance may have continued before the company received formal notice. Seyi took out his phone. My notice was received electronically at 11:18 a.m. Dare smiled without warmth. Received by external mailboxes. Not confirmed by our property team. Ronke looked at him. You may argue about routing later. Who ordered the paint? Dare's lawyer answered. We will verify. Ronke put on her hard hat. Verify quickly. The inspection lasted 6 hours and 23 minutes. The blocked drainage was photographed and measured. The new paint was scraped only after every layer had been recorded. Behind one patch, the crack matched Seyi's photograph. Behind another, fresh filler had been pressed into a void without any repair specification. Dr. George stopped calling the problem cosmetic before lunch. At 2:46 p.m., a core sample from a non-critical test location showed honeycombing deeper than the surface. That did not prove the entire wall was defective, but it increased concern about construction quality. At 4:02 p.m., Ronke ordered continuous movement monitoring and recommended immediate restriction of the western parking zone. Dare objected. Recommendation is not an evacuation order. No, Ronke said. But if you reopen that area against written professional advice, sign your name beneath the decision. Dare looked at the paper. He did not sign. That evening, Abini Urban Estates released a statement calling the inspection precautionary and the observed defects superficial. The statement did not mention the 11mm displacement. It did not mention the blocked drains. It did not mention the new paint. It did mention that social media rumors could cause unnecessary panic. Bisi read the statement from her room and laughed once. There was no humor in it. 3 days later, Kemi called her. Bisi nearly ignored the number. Then she answered and pressed record on another device. Not because Seyi had told her to, but because the lawyer had confirmed that she could lawfully record a conversation to which she was a party. Bisi, Kemi said. How are you managing? I am unemployed. I asked how you are. You know how I am. Kemi breathed out. We should talk. About my salary. About resolving everything. They met at a quiet hotel lounge in Ikeja the following afternoon. Kemi chose a corner beneath a camera she believed was decorative. Bisi came with the labor rights lawyer waiting in a car outside. Kemi ordered water. Bisi ordered nothing. A slim envelope lay between them. There is 1,350,000 naira in settlement value, Kemi said. Your outstanding salary. An additional goodwill payment and a positive reference. Bisi's eyes moved to the envelope. Her landlord had sent 6 messages that morning. Her mother's clinic had asked for 96,000 before the next treatment. 1,350,000 naira was not abstract money. It had rooms inside it. Medicine, transport, sleep. What do I sign? She asked. Kemi slid a document across the table. A standard confidentiality agreement and factual clarification. Bisi began to read. The first page said she would not disclose internal company information. The second said she acknowledged that Seyi had no confirmed appointment. The third said she had entered his name after the incident in an attempt to correct her own access control failure. Bisi read that paragraph again. You want me to say I forged the schedule? Not forged, entered in error. It says after the incident. It protects everybody. It makes me a liar. Kemi lowered her voice. Bissy, you are already unemployed. 2 companies have called us for references, and both were informed there is an unresolved security concern. Busy's fingers stopped on the page. You did that? Company policy did that. You are the company when it wants to punish somebody. When it owes salary, suddenly policy becomes a person nobody can find. Kemi's jaw hardened. Do not be rude because I am helping you. You sacked me. I am offering you more than 6 months of your salary. To rent my mouth. To close a matter that can damage many innocent employees. Bissy looked through the glass wall towards the hotel driveway. The lawyer's car sat beneath a tree. Kemi saw the hesitation and leaned closer. Listen, my sister. Pride is sweet when somebody else is paying your rent. People without money should not hold dignity too tightly. It can become expensive. Bissy's thumb pressed into the paper hard enough to leave a half moon. Then she noticed a line at the bottom of page 3. The employee accepts sole responsibility for the creation and alteration of Visitor Record 417. Sole responsibility. Kemi had not brought help. She had brought a burial cloth and expected Bissy to lie down inside it. Bissy placed the pen on the table. Then perhaps people with money should stop renting other people's lies. Kemi's face emptied. Bissy slid the document into the center of the table and stood. You cannot take that copy, Kemi said. I do not need to. She tapped the top corner where the document scanner application on her phone had quietly captured each page while she read. Kemi reached for the paper. Bissy stepped back. You recorded me? I preserved a conversation about my termination. I will sue you. Use the salary you owe me. Bissy walked out before her knees could show what they were doing. In the car, she shut the door and pressed both hands between her thighs until the shaking reduced. The lawyer beside her did not say she had been brave. She only asked, Did you sign anything? No. Good. Send me the files in their original form. That evening, Kemi told Dare that Bissy had refused. Dare stood at the office window with his back to her. You allowed her to photograph the document. I did not know she was doing it. You did not know Balogun was on television. You did not know the visitor book had carbon paper. You did not know the lobby system kept backups. What exactly do you know? Kemi's nails dug into her palm. I know you wrote the strategy. Dare turned slowly. Be careful. I have been careful. I removed the record. I signed the incident note. I handled Bissy. You failed to handle Bissy. You told me the building was safe. I told you the assessment was not a conclusion. The panel has restricted the western parking area, temporarily. And 38 flats? Dare's silence answered before he did. Kemi stepped closer to the desk. What about them? Ronki is considering controlled relocation while monitoring continues. You knew. I knew the financing depended on timing. That is not what I asked. Dare picked up a folder and placed it before her. Inside was a draft media plan. Kemi's own department logo sat at the top. Residents are getting restless, he said. Tomorrow you will go to a Benny court and reassure them. No technical language, no mention of movement. Say the defects are cosmetic and the company is acting out of abundance of caution. Is that true? It is the approved message. Kemi looked at the folder, then at Dare, and chose the folder. The next morning she arrived at a Benny court in a fitted white blouse, red trousers, and the same red pumps she had worn to dinner. A camera team followed her through the courtyard. Residents had gathered beneath a canopy. Some held printed copies of the company statement. Others held phones. Kemi smiled into the camera. Benny Urban Estates takes the comfort and safety of every resident seriously. The observed issues are cosmetic defects associated with seasonal rainfall, and our precautionary assessment is ongoing. A woman in a green wrapper raised her hand. My bedroom door cannot close again. Our technical team is evaluating individual maintenance concerns. Should I sleep in the sitting room? There is no verified indication of danger. Then why did you close the car park? As a precaution. Why are they putting instruments on the wall? To gather data. What data? Kemi's smile held. Madam, all findings will be communicated through the proper channel. The woman squeezed her face. You people like proper channel when water is entering somebody's house. A few residents murmured. Kemi signaled the camera operator to stop. At that exact moment, a flat piece of plaster detached from the parking ceiling behind her. It fell 3 meters and struck the windscreen of her company SUV. The glass burst inward in a white web. Nobody screamed at first. The sound had been too clean. Then 3 people moved at once. A security man pulled Kemi backwards. The camera operator dropped one hand from his rig. The woman in the green wrapper covered her mouth. Dust settled across the red bonnet. Kemi stared at the broken windscreen. A small piece of plaster had landed on the driver's seat. If somebody had been inside, it might have cut them. It might not have. The point was not a dramatic near-death. The point was that concrete did not care about approved messages. The woman in green looked at Kemi. Madam, she said, is this one also cosmetic? Kemi opened her mouth. No sound came. Across the courtyard, Seyi stood beside a monitoring instrument with Ronke. He had seen the whole thing. He did not smile. That made it harder to bear. The plaster incident changed the residents faster than it changed Kemi. Before noon, 23 videos were online. Most showed the shattered windscreen. One showed Kemi's face after the woman's question. Another captured Seyi in the background, bending to examine the fallen material while everybody else argued. The story spreading on social media was simple. Luxury developer lies, ceiling falls. The truth was less neat. The fallen plaster came from a section of ceiling finish near a leaking pipe. It was not proof that the building frame was failing. Seyi said so when 3 bloggers surrounded him at the gate. Did the building almost collapse on the company director? One asked. No. Is a Beni court unsafe? Parts of it require restriction and urgent assessment. Will it collapse? I do not know. The blogger lowered his phone. Engineer, that answer will not trend. It may still be true. Seyi walked away. Ronke's team installed 8 movement gauges along the western wall and 6 telltales across selected cracks. Readings would be taken every 4 hours, more often if rainfall increased. A drainage contractor cleared the 2 blocked inspection points under supervision and found that a later landscaping project had narrowed the discharge path with an unapproved concrete collar. Water had somewhere to go, just not quickly enough. At 3:26 p.m., Ronke issued a written recommendation to relocate occupants from 38 flats on the western side for 72 hours while tests continued. The wording was careful. It did not declare the entire building unfit. It identified a precautionary zone based on movement, water pressure, and the concentration of related signs. Dare had received the recommendation at 3:31. At 3:38, he called Kemi. She was still at a Beni court, sitting in the back seat of another company vehicle. Fine dust remained on her right sleeve. Do not announce relocation, he said. Ronk has issued it in writing. It is a recommendation. There are 38 flats. We need a board resolution before we create hotel liability. What happens while the board is resolving? Residents remain where they are. Kemi looked through the window. The woman in the green wrapper was speaking to 2 neighbors. One held a sleeping child against her shoulder. The child had no dialogue and needed none. One bare foot hung from the wrapper, grey with dust. Dare, Kemi said. The wall has moved. 11 millimeters since a drawing taken 2 years ago. No one can prove when. The monitors are there now. Then monitor. What if the reading changes tonight? Call me, and if you do not answer. Dare's voice became flat. Do not become dramatic because plaster damaged your windscreen. The call ended. Kemi stayed in the vehicle for another minute. Her driver did not turn around. Then she opened the media folder and read the approved line again. There is no verified indication of danger. She deleted it from the draft statement, but she did not release the relocation notice either. At 4:12 p.m., Ronki sent the recommendation directly to the Residents Association and the Building Control Office. She had expected delay. By 5 o'clock, the courtyard was full of suitcases, arguments, and people calling relatives who had no spare rooms. Abeni Urban Estates offered no transport and no hotel rooms. The company said formal arrangements were pending executive approval. Seyi phoned 3 professional contacts: a church-owned guest house and a serviced apartment manager he had once helped with a roof inspection. It produced enough temporary space for 14 households. The Residents Association found more. It was not enough. BC saw the appeal online and sent Bynes $7,000 from money she did not have. Then she called the labor rights lawyer to ask whether donating to residents could be used against her as proof of conspiracy. No, the lawyer said. But stop trying to solve a corporate evacuation with your feeding money. BC looked at the half-loaf on her shelf. It is not feeding money anymore. The lawyer sighed. I will speak to an emergency housing group. At 6:40 p.m., Seyi entered the western corridor with the estate manager to check that the 38 flats were empty. One elderly resident refused to leave because her late husband's documents were locked inside a cabinet whose key had broken. You people want thieves to carry everything, she said. Seyi sat on a low stool near her door. No one will force you without procedure, Ma. But the advice is to leave tonight. My husband built his first shop with money from this house. Then let us bring the documents. The cabinet is heavy. I did not say we will carry the cabinet. A locksmith came at 7:18. The documents were placed inside 2 supermarket bags. Say carried one. The estate manager carried the other. The woman locked her door 3 times before leaving. At 83, the last resident on the western side crossed the courtyard. Kemi watched from beneath the canopy. No one thanked Abeni Urban Estates. The company had still not paid for a single room. That night, Musa sat in his security room at headquarters with the lunch bag on his lap. The memory card inside it felt heavier each day, though it weighed less than a coin. He had watched the video of the plaster hitting Kemi's SUV. He had read the relocation recommendation. He had also received a message from payroll confirming a staff education advance for his daughter's fees. The advance was exactly $292,500, the amount he had been short. There was no explanation. Musa knew one. At 9:11 p.m., he called Kemi. Madam, did you arrange money for my daughter? What money? Education advance. If payroll approved an advance, thank the company. I did not apply. There was a pause. Musa, your daughter should not suffer because you performed your duty. My duty was to remove Engineer Balogun. Your duty was to follow instruction. And the statement. You signed what you witnessed. He was not drunk. I did not write drunk. The statement said possibly intoxicated. Because of what? Musa, I am tired. So am I, Ma. He ended the call before she could. Then he opened the lunch bag and listened to the radio file through an old laptop. The recording began with ordinary things. A delivery van at gate 2. A vendor without a pass. Somebody requesting more chairs. Then Kemi's voice. Musa, come to reception. We have a dirty intruder disturbing guests. Later, remove him through service exit. Clear his name from today's records. I do not want that man attached to this event. And Seyi's voice, farther away. Please register the report. The time is 11:06. Musa paused the file. He put both hands over his face. At 10:27, he called Seyi's public office number. Seyi answered on the fifth ring. Engineer, it is Musa, the security man. Yes, I signed something that is not correct. Seyi did not rescue him from the sentence. What did you sign? That you were aggressive. That you may have been drunk. That you tried to enter a restricted place. Why did you sign? Musa looked at the payroll message on his phone. I was afraid. Of losing your job? Yes. Anything else? They paid my daughter's school balance after. Did you ask for the payment? No. Do you have evidence of the instruction? Musa looked at the lunch bag. There is radio recording. Do not send it to me tonight. Musa frowned. Why? Because I am part of the technical review. Your evidence concerns employment conduct and possible obstruction. It should go through an independent legal channel. I will give you a contact. Engineer, are you not angry with me? I am. Musa waited. Seyi continued, but my anger does not make me your lawyer. The next morning, Musa met the same labor rights lawyer who represented Bisi. He gave her a forensic copy of the memory card and kept the original sealed. He also provided the payroll message, his false statement, and the date Dare had asked about his daughter's course. When he returned to work, nothing looked different. That frightened him more than confrontation. At a Beni court, the first 24 hours of monitoring showed small but measurable movement after rainfall. At gauge W4, the reading increased by 3 millimeters. At W6, it increased by 0.9. The rate slowed when rain eased, then rose again when another storm moved in from the coast. Seyi and Ronke reviewed the readings at 5:45 p.m. We need wider relocation, Seyi said. Ronke tapped one column. Based on what threshold? Rate of change, continued water ingress, and uncertainty behind the wall. Put it in writing. I have. Then defend it without mentioning your lobby incident. Seyi looked at her. Ronke removed her glasses. Dare's lawyers will say every recommendation is revenge. Do not give them one loose sentence. I have not mentioned the lobby in any technical note. I know. Keep not mentioning it. At 6:20 p.m. The panel recommended temporary relocation of the remaining western half of the building and closure of the entire basement. Building control endorsed the basement closure at 7:04. This time, the notice reached residents before Dare could slow it. He called Kemi from his car. You will issue a statement that the company initiated the precautionary relocation. But we opposed it. Publicly, we initiated it. There are emails. Internal deliberation is normal. You told me there was no danger. I told you there was no verified conclusion. Kemi sat at her dining table. The red shoes from the lobby stood near the wall, still carrying a dull grey line where Seyi's report had touched one toe. She had not cleaned them. Dare, what did you change at a Beni court? The question is what the contractor changed. Which contractor? The landscaping contractor. Who approved them? You are asking questions outside your function. My function is now signing statements about displaced families. Your function is whatever keeps your salary entering your account. The line went dead. Kemi remained at the table. Her mother called from Abeokuta. She ignored it. Then the phone rang again. This time she answered. Kemi, hope no problem, her mother asked. No problem, Mummy. You sound somehow. I am tired. Have you eaten? Yes. It was her fourth lie of the hour. The storm reached Oniru after midnight. Rain struck the evacuated windows at an angle and ran down the western wall in sheets. At 1:36 a.m., gauge W4 triggered an automated alert. Movement had increased beyond the panel's short-term action level. At 1:42, the estate manager called Seyi. Engineer, the alarm is sounding. Is the basement empty? Yes. Is the western side empty? Yes. Do not enter. Move security beyond the courtyard line. What of the generator room? Do not enter. The main generator is there. Leave it. Seyi called Ronke, Building Control and Emergency Services. Then he drove from Surulere through water deep enough near one junction to make his Corolla shudder. At 2:07 a.m., residents stood beneath umbrellas across the road. Some had come from temporary rooms after receiving emergency messages. They watched their building through rain that blurred the upper floors. Kemi arrived in a ride-hailing car at 2:10. She had put a black raincoat over nightclothes and pushed her feet into the red pumps because they were nearest the door. The shoes sank into brown water. At 2:13, the western retaining wall moved. It did not explode. It gave a low grinding sound, concrete against wet soil, followed by the hard snap of metal brackets. A section of the parking canopy folded down. 17 parking bays disappeared beneath blocks, mud, and twisted roofing sheets. A parked car rolled sideways and stopped against a column. The building remained standing. Nobody died. Nobody was inside the restricted zone. For several seconds, the residents across the road made no sound. Even the people holding phones lowered them. Then the woman in the green wrapper began to cry without moving her hands from her sides. Not because she had seen death. Because she had seen where death had been waiting. Seyi stood beside the emergency barrier, rain running from his chin. He counted the security staff, the estate manager, the responders. He checked the evacuation list twice. Kemi came towards him through the water. "Is everyone out?" she asked. "Yes. Are you sure?" "We are verifying." She looked at the collapsed canopy. "My statement said cosmetic." Seyi did not answer. "I stood there and said it. This is not the place for confession," he said. "Help check the relocation register. Names, flat numbers, phone contacts. Do not guess." Kemi stared at him. After what she had done, he had given her work instead of humiliation. She took the clipboard. For the next 43 minutes, Kemi called residents one by one. Her red shoes filled with rainwater. Her night trousers dragged in the mud. Nobody offered her a chair. At 3:07 a.m., the last missing resident answered from his brother's house in Lekki. All occupants accounted for. Seyi wrote the time beside the name. Kemi's fingers were blue from cold. "Why did you not expose me on television?" she asked. He closed the register. "Because the wall did not know your name." By sunrise, every major station had footage of the collapsed parking structure. Abeni Urban Estates issued a statement claiming its proactive evacuation had prevented injuries. At 8:12 a.m., the Residents' Association published Ronke's earlier recommendation and the company's delayed response. At 8:26, Bisi published nothing. At 8:41, Musa went to work. At 9:03, Dare arrived at headquarters and ordered the legal department to prepare for war. He still believed paper could be made to obey him. Before the hearing was announced, the company tried one more time to control the story. At 11:40 on the morning after the collapse, Kemi was called to Dare's office. She had not slept. The mud had dried around the hem of her trousers, and the skin above both heels was raw from the wet red pumps. Dare was dressed as if nothing had happened. A navy suit, white pocket square, fresh coffee. On his desk sat a prepared statement with Kemi's name beneath it. She read the first paragraph. Due to exceptional rainfall, a non-structural parking canopy experienced a localized failure after Abeni Urban Estates proactively relocated residents as an added precaution. Kemi looked up. "We did not proactively relocate them. The company did. Ronke sent the notice because you delayed." Ronka's panel is part of the coordinated response. She is not part of this company. Dare pointed at the statement. The families are alive. That is the message. They are alive because Seyi insisted. Dare's coffee cup stopped near his mouth. Do not use his first name in this office. Kemi almost laughed. It came out as air through her nose. You are still worried about rank. I am worried about evidence. The building did not collapse. A retaining structure and canopy failed in an evacuated zone during extreme weather. Lawyers can work with that. What will the residents work with? Compensation. You told them to remain inside while the board was resolving. Dare placed the cup down. Did you record that call? Kemi said nothing. His eyes narrowed. Give me your phone. No, the word surprised both of them. Dare stood. Kemi, do not confuse guilt with courage. You refused the report. You accused the man of theft. You ordered security to remove him. Those cameras do not show me. But you ordered the deletion. Prove it. There was no anger in his voice now, only arithmetic. He had already divided the scandal and placed most of it in her column. Kemi looked again at the statement. Her name waited beneath the final paragraph. You want me to say we initiated the relocation. I want you to communicate an institutional response. You want my signature. You are the brand director. For how long? Dare did not answer. Kemi folded the statement once and left it on the desk. At the door, Dare said, The moment you walk out without signing, you become the problem we are managing. Kemi kept walking. In the lift, she opened her phone and photographed every message between them concerning Abeni Court. She exported the call logs, forwarded the media drafts to her personal lawyer, and placed the device on airplane mode. This was not sudden goodness. She was protecting herself, but self-preservation, for once, pointed in the same direction as the truth. Across Lagos, Bisi was doing something less dramatic and more difficult. She sat with the labor rights lawyer and reconstructed the lobby events, minute by minute. What color was the access card? The lawyer asked. Gold at the edge, white in the center. Who first said it was missing? Miss Adebayo. Did you see it fall? No. Then do not say it fell from the tray in your statement. But the video may show it. The video can speak for itself. You say only what you saw. Bisi crossed out one sentence. What exact words did she use about the camera? Bisi closed her eyes. Remove him before his suffering enters our camera. Are you certain? Yes. Certain enough to repeat it under questioning. Bisi opened her eyes. Yes. The lawyer nodded and moved to the next line. Musa joined them later with the original memory card sealed inside a tamper-evident envelope. Before handing it over, he asked whether returning the education advance would erase the implication that he had been paid. No, the lawyer said. It may show what you did after understanding the problem. It does not rewrite what happened before. Musa rubbed his forehead. Everybody wants to change yesterday. Yesterday is stubborn. At Abeni Court, residents prepared their own timeline. They collected hotel receipts, transport costs, photographs of damaged vehicles, and messages from management. Seyi warned them not to include rumors that could not be verified. One resident wanted to add that the entire foundation had shifted. Who measured that? Seyi asked. Nobody, but everybody knows. Then everybody knows something nobody has measured. The resident squeezed his face. Engineer, you are defending them? No. I am defending your evidence. He removed the claim from the draft. By the time the hearing notice was issued, 3 different groups had assembled records for 3 different reasons. Dare wanted to limit liability. Kemi wanted to avoid carrying his decisions alone. Bisi and Musa wanted the official record corrected. The residents wanted their homes repaired and their expenses paid. Seyi wanted one thing written clearly before all of them began fighting over reputation. The warning came before the failure. The public hearing was announced 4 days later. By then, 38 Western flats remained inaccessible. The basement had been sealed, and the displaced families were scattered across hotels, guest houses, and relatives' sitting rooms. Abeni Urban Estates had begun paying for accommodation only after a court application was filed, and 2 lenders demanded written proof that residents were protected. The hearing would examine 3 separate matters: the physical failure at Abeni Court, the handling of prior warnings, and possible retaliation against staff and witnesses. Ronki insisted on separating them because public anger liked one villain and one explanation. Buildings rarely failed so conveniently. Neither did institutions. Lagos Civic Hall opened its doors at 7:30 on Monday morning. Television crews filled the entrance. Residents wore numbered tags so the organizers could distinguish affected occupants from spectators. The woman in the green wrapper sat in the second row with a folder on her lap and no interest in anybody's camera. Seyi arrived at 8:06 with the old leather case. Bisi came at 8:19 in a plain navy dress. The labor rights lawyer walked beside her but did not hold her arm. Musa arrived at 8:27 and sat near the rear exit. His cap remained folded between his hands. Kemi entered at 8:41, wearing a charcoal suit and white blouse. No red. Dare arrived 2 minutes before the doors closed. 3 lawyers followed him. He greeted no residents. At 9 o'clock, Ronki took her seat at the center of the panel table. "This is an administrative fact-finding hearing," she said. "It is not a theater for insults, and it is not a shortcut around criminal or civil procedure. Every person who speaks will distinguish what they witnessed from what they assumed. Documents will be identified by source, date, and chain of custody. If you do not know, say you do not know." Her eyes moved across the room. "Let us begin." The first morning dealt with engineering. Seyi presented the initial observations from the night of May 21. Each photograph appeared on the screen with its original metadata. He explained the diagonal crack, the water ingress, the blocked drainage, and the approximate 11-millimeter difference between the wall position and the 2023 reference drawing. Dare's lead lawyer stood. "Engineer Balogun, 11 millimeters across 2 years is not necessarily alarming, correct?" "Correct." "So your first report did not establish imminent failure?" "Correct." "It did not prove defective concrete?" "Correct." "It did not prove the building was unsafe for occupation?" "Correct." The lawyer turned towards the audience as if 3 correct answers had completed the case. "Then, why did you describe the notice as urgent?" "Because several related signs appeared together after heavy rainfall. Prior movement monitoring was absent, drainage was obstructed, and occupied homes sat above the affected zone. Urgent investigation is not the same as predicting collapse." "You were uncertain." "Yes. Yet you recommended restrictions." "Uncertainty can increase the need for precaution. It does not always reduce it." The lawyer tapped his pen. "Engineer, were you angry with Abeni Urban Estates when you sent your report at 11:18 a.m.? Seyi looked at him. "I was concerned about the property before I entered the office. That was not my question." "Yes. I was angry when I left." A murmur moved through the hall. The lawyer nodded. "Because you had been embarrassed?" "Yes. So your report was sent from a state of anger. The complete report sent at 11:18 was compiled from notes, photographs, and measurements made before I entered the office. The preliminary version had also been emailed at 12:47 a.m., almost 10 hours before the lobby incident. The screen changed. The email header appeared. Wednesday, May 21, 2025, 12:47 a.m. Recipients included the company's estate management address and compliance mailbox. The lawyer stopped tapping his pen. Seyi continued. Anger did not alter the crack width. It did not block the drains. It did not move the wall. Ronka raised one hand. Engineer Balogun, keep your answer technical. Yes, Chair. The panel then heard from the drainage contractor. The unapproved concrete collar had reduced the effective discharge path. Construction debris had hardened inside 2 inspection points. Purchase records showed landscaping works had been completed 11 months earlier. Dr. George, the company consultant, admitted that his first cosmetic defect letter had been issued without visiting the basement. You relied on photographs supplied by management? Ronke asked. Yes. Did those photographs show the blocked drains? No. Did they show the full cracks before fresh paint was applied? No. Did you ask whether the wall had monitoring history? I was told routine maintenance records were available. Were they? No. Ronka removed her glasses and placed them on the table. Then your letter was not a structural assessment. Dr. George swallowed. It was a preliminary opinion, based on selected images. Yes, say that clearly. It was a preliminary opinion based on selected images provided by the client. In the afternoon, the panel examined the sequence of warnings and responses. Abeni Urban Estates produced its internal incident statement. It described Seyi as an unauthorized individual who behaved aggressively, possibly under the influence of alcohol, and attempted to access a restricted investor event. Dare's lawyer read the document aloud. Then he called Kemi. She took the witness seat at 2:17 p.m. State your role at the time, the lawyer said. Director of Brand Experience. Did Engineer Balogun have a confirmed executive appointment? Not an executive appointment. Did he identify the person he had come to meet? No. He said Compliance Desk 2. Did he enter during a restricted investor event? Yes. Did his presence cause disruption? Yes. Did you know his professional role? No. Did he present formal identification? Kemi looked at Seyi. No. Seyi's leather case sat on the floor beside him. His engineering identification card had been in the clear front sleeve of the report envelope. Kemi had never turned it over. The lawyer continued. Would you have acted differently if you had known he was the lead advisor to a public review panel? Kemi's mouth opened. Ronki spoke before she answered. Counsel, relevance, it concerns whether there was intentional obstruction of a recognized official. The question also implies respect should depend on title. Rephrase. The lawyer's eyes tightened. Did Ms. Adebayo refuse the document because of Engineer Balogun's role, or because of the circumstances at reception? Kemi answered, because of the circumstances. Dare watched her from the table. The company's case was taking shape. Kemi had made a regrettable security decision before anybody knew Seyi's status. The report had not been formally received. Later technical events were separate. It might have worked. Then Bisi was called. She walked to the witness seat carrying a transparent document sleeve. Her right hand would not stop pressing the left edge flat. Ronk noticed. Take your time, Miss Coker. Bisi sat. The labor rights lawyer asked her to explain the visitor process. Appointments were printed each morning. Visitors received a numbered slip. The white top copy went to the host department. A pink carbon copy remained in the reception book. Was Engineer Balogun's name on the schedule? Yes. Did you see it before the disturbance? Yes. What did you do? I began visitor slip 417 at 10:47 a.m. Where is the slip? Bisi opened the transparent sleeve. The room became quieter before anybody had read the paper. It was only a small pink rectangle cheap stationery with one bent corner. On the screen, it looked enormous. Visitor no. 417 Seyi Balogun, 10:47 a.m. Compliance. Desk Twargent Safety Norter. Court. The camera zoomed in on the handwriting. Dare leaned towards one of his lawyers. Kemi's eyes stayed on the paper. The lawyer asked, "When did you remove this copy from the visitor book?" "After Engineer Balogun was taken out and after Ms. Adebayo tore the white copy." "Why?" "Because she asked what copy he meant. I believe the record might be removed." "Did you alter it later?" "No." "Did you scan it?" "Yes, at 3:14 p.m. that day." The scanner's automated email appeared on the screen. Metadata showed the file had been generated before BC was dismissed and before the television interview aired. Dare's lawyer rose. "Mims Coker, you removed company property." "Yes." "You had no authority to do so." "No." "You were angry with management." "I became angry after they sacked me." "You have been working with Engineer Balogun." "I met him after they sacked me." "You donated money to residents, 7,000 naira. Why?" "Because they needed somewhere to sleep." "So you had taken a side?" Bissy looked at him. People without rooms were not a side. A few residents clapped. Ronki struck the table once with a wooden block. No demonstrations. The lawyer walked closer. "Did you create the handwritten schedule entry yourself?" "No." "Can you identify who did?" "No." "Then you cannot prove it was authorized." "I can prove it was there before he arrived." "How?" BC looked towards the screen operator. A photograph appeared. It showed the printed morning schedule beneath the reception keyboard. The image timestamp read 10:49 a.m. Seyi's handwritten appointment sat beside the time 10:45. "I photographed it when Ms. Adebayo began saying he had no appointment," BC said. The lawyer paused. "Why were you photographing internal schedules during working hours?" "Because I had just watched a person put her hand over a name and pretend it was not there." Kemi's shoulders dropped by a small amount. The hearing moved to the digital visitor log. An independent systems auditor explained that Seyi's entry had been created at 10:47 a.m. and deleted at 9:42 p.m. using Kemi's credentials. The visible record was gone, but the audit trail remained in an off-site backup. "Reason entered for deletion?" Ronke asked. The auditor read it. "Unauthorized intruder. Entry created in error." "Was the audit log altered?" "No." "Could it have been altered by a receptionist?" "No." "Deletion required director-level credentials." Kemi looked down at her hands. The autosaved email draft came next. The systems auditor explained that Kemi's male client had saved an earlier version before she edited and sent the final instruction. The screen displayed the line in black letters: "Remove the dirty intruder from today's records." "We cannot let this become part of the investor narrative." The hall did not gasp. Real humiliation did not sound like a film. It sounded like chairs shifting. A cough held too long. Somebody's pen falling and not being picked up. Kemi read her own words. Behind the panel, one camera light changed from green to red. Dare's lawyer stood quickly. "The draft reflects informal wording, not an instruction to destroy safety evidence." Ronki looked at him. "We will decide what it reflects after all evidence is heard." The security footage was played at 4:06 p.m. Abeni Urban Estates had produced only a 38-second clip beginning after Seyi's documents fell. The company said earlier footage had been corrupted during server maintenance, but the lobby camera system was maintained by an external contractor. Its mirrored server held the full recording. The video began at 10:39 a.m. The hall watched Seyi enter. They watched BC find his name. They watched Kemi stop her from calling compliance. They watched the access card fall from the tray before Seyi moved near it. They watched Kemi point to the card anyway. Then came the bag, the papers, the report beside the red shoe. The camera had no clear audio, but the radio microphones did. Musa was called. He walked to the witness seat as if each step had been measured against his daughter's school fees. "Did you sign the incident statement?" the lawyer asked. "Yes." "Was it accurate?" "No." "Which part was false?" "That engineer Balogun was aggressive. That he may have been drunk. That he tried to enter the restricted hall. He stayed at reception." "Why did you sign?" Musa's thumb rubbed his cap. "I was afraid they would sack me." "Did anyone threaten you directly?" "Mr. Okoro asked about my daughter's university course and fees. After I signed, payroll paid the exact balance I was short, though I had not applied for an advance." Dare's lawyer rose. "Speculation." Ronke nodded. "The witness may state the sequence. He may not state the payer's motive without evidence." Musa swallowed. "The sequence is what I know. Do you have anything else?" "Yes." The radio recording played. First came Kemi's voice. "Musa, come to reception. We have a dirty intruder disturbing guests. Then, remove him through service exit. Clear his name from today's records. I do not want that man attached to this event. Then Seyi, farther away, please register the report. The time is 11:06. Musa closed his eyes while the file played. When it ended, the lawyer asked, "Why did you preserve the recording?" "I knew the statement was wrong." "Yet you signed it." "Yes. You want this panel to see you as a victim?" Musa opened his eyes. "No. Fear explains why I signed. It does not make the signature disappear." Ronke wrote something down. Kemi turned towards Musa for the first time. He did not look at her. The second day of the hearing dealt with procurement and internal decision-making. Invoices showed that the landscaping contractor, responsible for the drainage alteration, was linked through directors and shared addresses to a company owned by Dare's brother-in-law. The original discharge design had been changed without complete engineering review. Savings were presented internally as value optimization. One email from Dare to a project manager said, "Do not use urgent structural intervention in lender-facing material. Replace with routine maintenance observation until refinancing is concluded." Another instructed the property team to delay resident notices until the board approved communication language. Dare took the witness seat shortly after noon. He denied personal benefit. He described the related company as an independently managed vendor. He said value optimization was normal. He said changing wording did not change engineering facts. He said no one had advised him that failure was imminent. All of that might have been partly true. Then Ronke asked a narrower question. After the panel recommended relocation of 38 flats at 326 p.m., why did you instruct Ms. Adebayo not to announce it? Dare adjusted his microphone. "I requested time for executive coordination." "How much time?" "Reasonable time." The last occupant left the western side at 8:03 p.m. because the panel informed residents directly. Had the panel waited for your coordination, when would relocation have begun? I cannot answer a hypothetical. The recommendation was real. The timing is hypothetical. Ronke looked towards the screen. A call log and Kemi's contemporaneous message to Dare appeared. What happens while the board is resolving? His reply had been captured in her phone backup. Residents remain where they are. Dare's lawyer stood. Messages are being taken without context. Then provide the context, Ronke said. Dare leaned towards the microphone. The company needed to avoid chaotic self-evacuation. You offered no transport and no hotel rooms. Arrangements were pending. Who found the first 14 rooms? Dare said nothing. Seyi's name appeared in the evidence bundle. Ronke continued. Who instructed residents directly? The panel. Who opposed the written recommendation? Our legal team raised procedural concerns. Under your authority? Yes. The hall went quiet again. Dare had spent 2 days distributing responsibility across procedures, contractors, lawyers, and uncertainty. Ronke kept returning it to decisions with names beneath them. Late in the afternoon, Dare's lead lawyer attempted one final turn. He said the deletion of the visitor log, the insulting language, and the false security description were actions taken by Kemi without his specific instruction. He said Kemi had panicked after seeing Seyi on television and had acted to protect her own reputation. Kemi's head turned. Dare did not look at her. The lawyer continued. Mr. Okoro's focus remained the financial stability of the company and the orderly assessment of the property. Ms. Adebayo's unauthorized conduct should not be confused with executive policy. Kemi stared at Dare's profile. This was the same man who had stood behind her while she deleted the record. The same man who had asked whether the carbon copy existed. The same man who had told her not to become moral at 9 o'clock. Ronke called Kemi back to the witness seat. Ms. Adebayo, did Mr. Okoro instruct you to delete Engineer Balogun's visitor record? Dare finally looked at her. It was not a threatening look. It was worse. It was confident. Kemi reached for the glass of water. Her hand struck the rim first. Water spilled across the table and ran over her notes. For several seconds, she tried to gather the wet papers. Nobody helped. Ronke waited. Kemi placed both hands flat on the table. Yes, she said. Dare's lawyer rose. Chair, I must advise the witness. She has counsel, Ronke said. Sit. Kemi's voice came again. Thinner now. He told me to remove the record. He asked whether the report had been stamped, whether cameras recorded the incident, and whether Bisi kept a carbon copy. Dare shook his head once. Kemi saw it, she continued. He told me to turn it into a security incident. I wrote the statement with his office. I asked Musa to sign. I offered Bisi money to accept responsibility for creating the visitor record. The hearing room seemed to lean towards her. Did Mr. Okoro instruct you to insult Engineer Balogun? Ronke asked. No. Did he instruct you to refuse the report at reception? No. Did he instruct you to accuse Engineer Balogun over the access card? No. Kemi's nails pressed against the table. That was me. Why? Kemi looked at Seyi. He did not lower his eyes for her. Because he looked poor, she said. Because his boots were dirty, and his case was old. Because I thought a man who looked like that could be removed without anybody important asking questions. The words did not come out beautifully. They came out plain. I saw his appointment on the schedule. I covered it with my hand. I saw the words urgent structural safety notice. I did not read the report. After I saw him on television, I helped erase the visit because I was afraid of losing my position. Later, when I knew residents might need relocation, I repeated the cosmetic defect message. Why? Because I had already lied once. The second lie protected the first one. Then the third protected the second. Dare's lawyer objected again. Ronke overruled him. Kemi turned towards Bisi. She did not alter visitor record 417. I asked her to sign a document saying she did. Bisi's face did not change. Kemi looked at Musa. He told me Engineer Balogun was not drunk. I pushed the statement anyway. Musa's cap stopped moving in his hands. Then Kemi looked at Seyi. I used the way you were dressed to make the lie sound believable. Seyi sat very still. Ronke asked him to return briefly for final questions. When he took the seat, Dare's lawyer tried once more. Engineer Balogun, now that the hearing has examined the lobby incident, do you accept that your personal humiliation influenced public perception of the technical matter? Seyi adjusted the microphone. Yes. The lawyer brightened. Seyi continued. That is why I did not release the lobby footage. Discuss the insult on television or include it in my engineering recommendation. Embarrassment is not engineering evidence. The lawyer's expression closed. Ronke asked, Mr. Balogun, do you wish to make a statement concerning Ms. Adebayo's conduct? Seyi looked at Kemi. People leaned forward. They expected the line that would crush her. They wanted him to remind everyone of the dirty boots, the service exit, the chair she ordered cleaned. They wanted pain returned in the same shape it had arrived. Seyi looked instead at the residents seated behind her. Then he said, the chair you ordered them to clean was never in danger. The people whose warning you refused to hear were. Kemi lowered her head. No one clapped. No one needed to. The panel did not announce prison sentences that afternoon. It could not. That disappointed some people outside Civic Hall who wanted handcuffs before sunset and a camera close enough to catch Dare's face. Real accountability moved more slowly. Files had to be transferred. Financial records had to be examined. Professional bodies had their own procedures. Civil claims had to be calculated household by household. But slow did not mean nothing happened. Before the hearing closed, Ronke issued interim findings. Abeni Urban Estates had failed to respond adequately to a documented safety warning. Its officers had delayed precautionary relocation, made misleading public statements, and retaliated against employees connected to the warning. Procurement and drainage modification records would be referred to the appropriate investigative authorities. All company properties of similar design would undergo independent review. Dare was suspended that evening. His access card stopped working before he returned to the office. Security met him in the lobby and asked him to surrender his company laptop. He demanded to speak with the board chairman. The chairman did not take the call. Dare stood near the same reception desk where Seyi's documents had fallen. Nobody laughed. Over the following weeks, investigators froze payments linked to the landscaping vendor, while they examined ownership records and invoices. Dare's professional body opened a disciplinary review. His name remained on documents he had once believed other people would carry for him. Whether criminal charges would lead to conviction was left to the courts. The company could no longer settle the matter with a press release. Kemi's employment ended 3 days after the hearing. Her termination letter listed falsification of records, retaliation against an employee, misleading communication to residents, and obstruction of an internal safety process. She lost her annual performance award and unvested share options. The figures were written neatly at the bottom of a page, as though money became less painful when placed in a table. She left headquarters through the main lobby. The cleaner she had ordered to wipe Seyi's chair was polishing the floor near reception. Kemi stopped beside her. For a moment, she seemed ready to speak. The cleaner moved her bucket out of the way and continued working. Kemi walked outside carrying one cardboard box. There was no service exit for her. Bissy received her outstanding mine 187,500 after the company's payroll records were reviewed. A civil settlement covered lost income and retaliatory dismissal. More important to her, Abeni Urban Estates issued a signed statement confirming that she had not created a false visitor record, breached building security, or conspired with Seyi. The statement reached the 2 companies that had rejected her applications. One invited her back for an interview. She declined. 4 months later, Bissy applied for an intake officer position with a housing safety nonprofit. The interview panel did not give her the job because she had appeared on television. They gave her a practical test involving 19 complaints, 4 incomplete forms, 2 duplicate photographs, and 1 resident who had written the wrong date on every page. VC organized the files, flagged what could not be verified, and refused to invent missing information. She scored 87%. On her first day, she kept visitor slip 417 inside a clear sleeve at home rather than displaying it in the office. She did not want to become the kind of person who needed every new visitor to know her old suffering. Musa was suspended for signing the false security statement. He accepted it. His daughter's school payment was investigated and reclassified as an improper inducement. Through the settlement process, Musa repaid the amount in monthly deductions after returning to work under a new contractor. He also completed witness integrity and incident report training. On the first day of that training, the instructor asked why accuracy mattered. Musa looked at the blank statement form in front of him. "Because fear can hold a pen," he said, "but the signature will still be yours." At Abeni Court, repair was more difficult than blame. Engineers excavated behind the western retaining wall in controlled stages. They installed temporary supports, restored the drainage path, removed defective sections, and rebuilt the failed portion according to a reviewed design. Independent inspectors tested concrete, reinforcement placement, and drainage flow before each stage was covered. The company established a $327 million repair and compensation fund under external oversight. Displaced households received accommodation costs, transport allowances, and reimbursement for damaged property. Residents were allowed to appoint their own technical representative to observe the works. Some accepted the settlement quickly. Others sued. The woman in the green wrapper returned to her flat after 112 days. Her bedroom door closed properly. She opened and shut it 4 times before unpacking. The building was not declared safe because a company executive stood in front of it with a ribbon. It reopened in sections after written inspections, load assessments, drainage testing, and approval by the relevant authorities. That process was less dramatic than the collapse footage. It mattered more. Abeni Urban Estates also changed its reporting policy. Safety complaints could no longer be rejected because the person raising them lacked an appointment, a title, or formal clothing. Notices received at reception had to be time-stamped before internal review. Staff could report concerns through an independent channel. Confidentiality agreements could not prevent lawful safety disclosures. The new rules were printed in a manual. Seyi read them once and said manuals were useful. Only when frightened people believed they could follow them without losing their livelihood. He recommended random audits. The board agreed because lenders were watching. Kemi gave evidence in the procurement investigation. Her cooperation reduced some civil penalties, but did not restore her position. She sold her car 6 months later and moved from her serviced apartment to a smaller flat in Yaba. The first week there, the generator failed 3 nights in a row. She carried water upstairs when the pump stopped. Nobody in the building knew she had once supervised campaigns selling homes with silent generators and permanent water pressure. Her mother visited on a Saturday and found her scrubbing red mud from a pair of old pumps. "Throw those shoes away," her mother said. Kemi looked at the grey mark near one toe. "I should have thrown away something else." Her mother waited for an explanation. Kemi did not give one. As part of the civil resolution, Kemi completed 160 hours with a dignity at work and safety reporting program. The first assignment placed her behind a desk, receiving complaints from construction workers, cleaners, guards, and temporary staff. On the first morning, a painter arrived with both hands stained blue. He placed a crumpled note on the desk and apologized for the marks. Kemi reached automatically for a tissue. Then she stopped. The painter noticed. "You do not want to touch it, madam?" Kemi took the paper with her bare hand. "What happened?" she asked. His employer had refused to provide a harness for work on a fourth-floor exterior. Kemi helped him record the site, date, supervisor, and written request. She did not promise that justice would arrive by evening. She explained which office would receive the complaint and how to preserve his photographs. The next person was a cleaner whose supervisor withheld 2 weeks of pay. Then a security guard asked whether reporting a damaged gate could make him liable if thieves entered later. Kemi listened. At first, listening felt like punishment. Later, it felt like work. Seyi did not visit her there. He did not become her friend, mentor, or secret admirer. Forgiveness was not a romance waiting to happen. He accepted her public correction of the record and continued with his life. A group of investors offered him a personal award of Leinlöse 12 million for preventing loss of life and protecting the property portfolio. Seyi declined the money. "I was paid for the assessment," he told them. They insisted the award recognized exceptional courage. Then use it to make courage less necessary. The money funded printed safety guides, basic monitoring equipment, and training for building managers, artisans, and resident associations. The guides explained that not every crack meant immediate collapse, but rapidly changing cracks, multiple jammed openings, unusual movement and water passing through structural elements, should be assessed by qualified professionals. They also warned people not to enter restricted areas for videos, repair evidence before inspection, or spread unverified claims online. Seyi reviewed every sentence. He removed the phrase "buildings always give warning." "Sometimes they do not," he said. "Do not make a promise concrete cannot keep." 6 months after the hearing, the program opened a small training center in Yaba. The building had 2 classrooms, a demonstration wall, a complaint desk, and a cupboard containing crack gauges that trainees were forbidden to carry away by mistake. Bisi helped design the intake forms. Musa attended the second security reporting workshop. Ronke taught the first technical session and sent back 3 certificates because her title had been printed incorrectly. Seyi arrived early to check the projector. It refused to recognize his laptop until Bisi kicked the extension box lightly with the side of her shoe. "Highly technical intervention," she said. "Do not put it in the manual," Seyi replied. They laughed. Kemi's service program later assigned her to the center twice a week. She worked at the complaint desk beneath a plain sign. "Report what you observed. Do not exaggerate. Do not be silent." There was no photograph of the hearing, no framed copy of Visitor Slip 417, no red dress preserved behind glass. On a humid Tuesday afternoon, a block mason came through the door wearing an old mustard safety vest over a charcoal shirt. Cement had dried around the cuffs. His brown trousers carried a tear at one knee, and one rubber sandal had been repaired with copper wire. He stopped 2 steps inside. A training group in the next room was discussing drainage. Their voices traveled through the thin wall. Kemi looked up from the register. The mason removed his cap. "Good afternoon, madam." "Good afternoon, sir. I came from a site at Mushin. They are pouring concrete, but the supervisor said we should add water because the mix is hard. I asked him to write the instruction. He said, I talk too much." Kemi reached for a visitor form. The man looked at the pale fabric chair opposite her. Dust covered the front of his shirt. He shifted towards the doorway. "Madam, should I wait outside, so I will not dirty the chair?" Kemi looked at the chair. For one brief second, the marble lobby returned. The red shoe, the page beneath it, the cleaner wiping fabric that had never been dirty. She stood. Then she pulled the chair out. "Sit down, sir," she said. "Tell me what you came to report." I keep returning to one question. How many warnings do people miss? Because the person carrying them does not look important enough. The building safety details in this story have been simplified for narration. In real life, suspected structural danger should be documented carefully and reported to qualified professionals and the appropriate authorities, not handled through confrontation, panic, or social media speculation. This story is entirely fictional and created with the assistance of AI for entertainment purposes only. It is intended to convey positive messages and life lessons. It does not refer to, represent, or target any real individual, organization, or establishment. Any resemblance to actual persons or events is purely coincidental.